quite sure how to begin today's message. But I want to start off by saying this, that we serve a God that only wants what's best for us. Mm-hmm. And he's only going to do what is necessary to fulfill his call upon your life. We serve a God who loves us so much that though sometimes we feel as we are being destroyed by him, he only wants to develop us to be all that he has destined us to be. Amen? Amen. Having said that, in the book of Proverbs, chapter 14, verse number 12. It said, there is a way that seemeth right. Are you there? Mm-hmm. There is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. Now that's not what I'm preaching from, but it's a good start. Because I believe all of us in here, the committed, the ones who are living for the cause of Christ, sometimes we practice impatience and we kind of want to help God out. So we come along with our foolproof, Holy Ghost self-ordained plans. And God wants me to remind you, as he reminded me, that there is a way that seems right. Yeah. If you have the you have the King James, say seemeth right. But the end is death. The end is death. And I don't know about you, but the word death can take on many forms. It could be the end of you. It could be the end of what you desire. But in both cases, it means that it is totally separated from God. Mm-hmm. And when God is not a part of something, and then that's death. Because physical death means when the spirit leaves the body. So when the Spirit of God leaves, that means we are operating totally in our flesh. And God does not operate out of the flesh. He just uses the flesh to accomplish what he and his spirit already ordained. So understand that verse. There's a way that may seem right. It may seem right to you. It may seem very practical. It's a foolproof plan. You thought about it. You wrote it out. You even had the audacity to sit down and come up with some possibilities of consequences either which way. And so you are sure about this, whatever this may be in your life, only to find out that it's death. I don't know about you, but that's a sad, sad day. When you thought about something long and hard, you even prayed about it. You wrote it down, because you know the Bible says write the vision down. Because it's only here for a moment, that those who may read it may run. Though it may tarry, you wait on it. And you still waiting. Not realizing that which you have dreamt up is dead. And so I want to introduce you all to a character. Before I do that, flip with me real quickly to Proverbs 21. Verse number 2. Let's put some weight on 14 and 12. Verse 2 of Proverbs 21 says, every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord weighs the heart. Mm-hmm. kind of go along well with verse 12, right? It seems right to you. He go on and say, it may be right to you. But when it's all said and done, only God can give you the final approval. Only God. My motivation is right. Did God say that? Or are you saying that? I have no ill will towards anybody. Did God say that? What I'm doing is not selfish. I want to bless everybody. Do God see it that way? What I'm trying to get you to understand, no matter what you do, amen. The Bible said, whatever you do, we do it as unto Christ. So what that essentially is saying is, whatever you're doing, make sure that God is okay with it. Amen. Don't take another step forward till you are fully sure that God is okay with it. Because I want to introduce you to a man that I met many years ago. And I met him many years ago, and I heard stories, and I did Sunday school series off of him. One of my famous sermons as a youth pastor was How to Play a Guy Play. All the kids was excited about that. Because there was a brother in the Bible whose name was Jacob. And I want to introduce you all to Jacob. Or I want to reintroduce you to Jacob. Because Jacob, just his name suggests that the Bible says he's a supplanter. What does that mean? He's a schemer. He liked getting over. And Jacob been getting over on people for a mighty long time. Even before the exiting of his mother's womb. Now how you say that? Because Jacob was in his mother's womb wrestling with his brother Esau to see which one would come out first. And Jacob wanted to come out first because that means he would be the heir apparent to Abraham's heir. He would be the heir to his side. He'd be the first one to take over. But we know the story. Esau came out even though Jacob was holding on to his ankle. Baby with a grip. Read the story. The Bible is so fascinating. Then later on in life, as Jacob was growing up and his daddy Isaac was waxing older and older, if you look around in chapter 26 of Genesis, you'll see what the Bible says his sight got dim. But he wanted to bless Esau. But before he would bless Esau, to be the heir of all that he had, because Abraham was a rich and wealthy man. And I say rich and wealthy, in our culture we use them interchangeably, but God used them separately, because you could be rich but not wealthy. And you could be wealthy without being rich. So what's the difference? Richness means you have a vast amount of tangible things that other people sit back and awe. Wealth means you have influence over the social realm of your day and time. So Abraham was both rich and wealthy. He had a lot of stuff, and a lot of people took counsel from him. And so the son who would take over all this would surely be in a good place. So before Abraham would sit and bless Esau, he asked Esau to go out and hunt some game and to fix it a certain way and to bring it back. Now the only difference between Esau and Jacob was the fact that Esau was very hairy and their voices was different. Other than that, the Bible kind of lends the thought that they look pretty much alike. The only difference is their voice and the hair on their body. Esau was hairy, Jacob was smooth skinned. But Jacob really wanted to be blessed by his dad that he would inherit everything. And so Jacob's mother, Rebecca, came up with a plan. And the plan was to go kill an animal take the fur off the animal and glue it on to Jacob's skin so he would appear to be hairy. And so Jacob's mother knew what Abraham wanted from Esau to cook. And so she went in there and cooked it and had Jacob go and present it to his father so that the father would eat it and then bless him. And so to make a long story short, Jacob came in there and he handed it to his dad, and the dad recognized the voice. He said, "You sound like Jacob." And so he began to touch him, and he felt all that animal had, but you feel like Esau. So he not knowing, or maybe he was just that hungry, he didn't care. He ate the food and he blessed Jacob. And then here come along Esau right after he blessed Jacob, and Isaac is sitting there full saying, "Daddy, I'm back with your meal." And the dad realized he'd been tricked by his son, but he said, "I have already blessed your brother Jacob." How many know that infuriated Esau to the point where Jacob had to get some gone? Now here it is, some 20 years later. The Lord talked to Jacob, said, "I want you to go back to the land of your ancestors, and I want you to go back." And as he take his 2 wives, 2 sisters, he was married to 2 sisters, Leah and Rachel. And they had a lot of children. See, he wanted Rachel because she was the beautiful one. And Leah was the one who had suspect eyes. In other words, she was cockeyed, cross-eyed, or whatever. I heard some white theologians talking about she had light eyes. No, they wasn't light. They was cross. And Rachel was the beautiful one, but Leah was the oldest one. And when Jacob went to Laban, their dad, to ask for the hand of marriage of Rachel, because the oldest daughter should get married first, Laban tricked Jacob. And he said, "Okay, you got to work for me 7 years." And so Jacob labored for Laban for 7 years just for the hand of Rachel. And so they got married, so he thought. And when he went to chambers and they got to know each other, and they had he had sex with her and all this stuff, only to come to find out the next morning it wasn't Rachel in the bed, it was the older sister Leah. I'm like, wow. It got to be awfully dark for you not to notice who you're sleeping with.
Yeah.
But the Bible says she had a veil on her face. At what point in time do you lift the veil? So that means physically they must have looked alike. It was just one wasn't as fortunate as the other in the face. So she decided to keep the veil on.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was the custom or not. So Jacob woke up, saw these eyes crossing up at him. Good morning, baby. He was infuriated. And he went to Laban. He didn't even kiss on the forehead goodbye. He ran to Laban. "How could you do this to me?" Hence my title, How the Player Got Played. I asked for Rachel, and you gave me this one.
Ain't saying
He said, "Oh, you really want that? I can't let the youngest one get married before the oldest one. But if you really, really want the youngest one, then you got to work for me 7 more years."
Wow.
This ain't like he getting a check, y'all. He enslaved himself. He was a bond servant.
Yeah.
And I'm saying Rachel must have been awfully, awfully beautiful because he did it.
Again.
14 years. he was willing to work and labor for the woman of his dream. Only to find out that her womb was barren. She couldn't have kids. But Leah, she was fertile. So he had sons. And I don't want to hold you up too long, but if you go back and read, you see where he had these 2 wives and these children. And finally, her womb did get blessed. And she had a son who we know as Joseph. And we talked about Joseph. And when she had this child, Joseph, Jacob was happy, was very happy, because this is the firstborn son of the woman he loved. I guess he grew to like the other one because he had a whole lot of sons from her. So she was there a little something. Another story, another time. But here we are, 20 years later. 20 years later, then this process, and Joseph was a little boy, and he had these kids. So he went to go to the land, and he got word that your brother Esau is coming, and he's coming to you. Oh snap! So he had another conversation with the Lord. Lord, you told me to go over here, and you're going to take care of me, and you're going to be well with my people. It is so many of us, we are in 2 camps right now. So Jacob didn't want to run the risk of his wives and his children getting killed, because he was told not only was Esau coming, but he was coming with 400 men. Now, I don't know what kind of welcome wagon he was bringing, but 400 people to come and welcome you just seems a bit much. And so he took his wife and he told them to go over to a place called Jabbok. And they went and they left. And here we are at our sermonic spotlight right now in Genesis chapter 32, starting at verse 24. And we're going to look down to verse 32, and we're going to try to get out of here post-haste. Amen? Amen. Here you go. At verse 24, it said, then Jacob was left alone. Are we there? You can't find Genesis, go to the front cover and start there.
Genesis.
32 is right after 31. Right before 33. Amen. Are we there?
Amen.
Well, let's read verse 22 so y'all don't think I make this stuff up. And he rose that night and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons, and crossed over the ford of Jabbok. He took them, sent them over the brook, and he sent over what he had. Our sermonic spotlight starts here. Then Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the breaking of day. Now when he saw that he did not prevail against him, he touched the socket of his hip, and the socket of Jacob's hip was out of joint. As he wrestled with him, and he said, let me go, for the day breaks. But he said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. So he said to him, what is your name? He said, Jacob. And he said, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel. For you have struggled with God and with men, and have prevailed. Then Jacob asked, saying, tell me your name, I pray. And he said, why is it that you ask about my name? And he blessed him there. So Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. Just as he crossed over Peniel, the sun rose on him, and he limped on his hip. Therefore, to this day, the children of Israel do not eat the muscle that shrank, which is on the hip socket, because he touched the socket of Jacob's hip and the muscle that shrank. Y'all see that? It's a whole lot in there. but I can only give you a little bit, hoping that it would encourage you. I want to talk with you from this thought. Broken to be blessed. Broken to be blessed. I asked you earlier, don't play with me, don't try to fool me. How many of y'all really want to be blessed of God? And y'all gave a thunderous applause as best you could. Oh, I want to be blessed. And so I want to remind you what I was reminded late or early this morning. And I couldn't remember what I read it, and I found out I had the book. A quote that A.W. Tozer used that I totally disagreed with, but now I'm a living testimony that yes, it's pretty much accurate. And I want to share it with you because you want to be blessed just like I want to be blessed. It said, it is doubtful. This is my thesis too. It is doubtful whether God can bless a man greatly until he has hurt him deeply. It is doubtful that God can bless a woman greatly until he has hurt her deeply. It is doubtful whether God can bless a child greatly until he has hurt them deeply. I took issue with that when I read that many years ago, because I was reading the book and I'm now reading again, and I read it from time to time over and over. The pursuit of God. And that's a surrendering that we have to have in our life. Even to get the enemy to leave you alone or to be at peace with you, you have to have total surrender to God. So if you're a walking bundle of frustration, and it doesn't seem like things are quite going your way, even though you have planned, even though you have prayed, even though you have weighed all the consequences, you have looked at all the choices, you have looked at all the things that could go wrong, could go right, if you just manipulate, navigate, do all these things. That's why the proverb says this, there's a way that seems right. Mm-hmm. But and Jacob was one of those cats. You got to read all the way back. God had already said that the oldest brother would have to be a servant to the younger brother. But I guess in the womb while he was trying to hold on, he didn't get the message. Or he didn't understand the message, or he didn't know the message. So this lets me know what God has planned for us, he don't have to sit there and pass the information on to you. Because those of us who are just will live by faith. Mm-hmm. And faith is a beautiful word when it is moving on our behalf. Mm-hmm. But when faith takes you down a road that you don't want to go on, when faith tells you have to deal with some folks that you don't want to deal with, when faith tells you have to endure some hardship that you don't want to deal with, when faith says better for worse, I'm giving you the worst, and you choose that I don't want the worst. But you agree, God, I stretch my hands to thee. I confess with my mouth, I believe in the heart that Jesus Christ is raised from the dead. God saved me. Now you saved. And so now I have to walk by faith. So God got this wonderful plan. He told me about the end. I know where I am in the beginning. He didn't tell me all about this stuff in the middle.
All right.
Because had he told me about the stuff, Alicia, I wouldn't be running this race.
Come on.
If I knew then, you know what I mean? How many times y'all said it? If I knew then what I know now. That's why God said, you'll never know. My ways are above your ways.
All right.
And my thoughts are above your thoughts. So you could think, you could thought, and you could thunk. But God said, my ways are not your ways, and my thoughts are not your thoughts. As high as the heavens are above the earth. So are my ways above your ways, so are my thoughts above your thoughts. He said, without faith it is impossible to please him. Can I ask you a question? In your current state, are you living a life that's pleasing to God? Maybe it's your faith. I already repented, so I feel free and at liberty to just give this to you as he gave it to me. So I repent. No, I wasn't happy. I told you, I'm just in a miserable state. I'm learning to be content. But I'm not the only one. Some of y'all share some struggles as well.
Amen.
And so I want you to know that you need to check, say, God, do you want to use me greatly, and do you want to bless me greatly? And if that's the case, we all signed up and say, man, because you can't beat God's giving.
Amen.
You can't beat God's blessing. That's why James said that though you suffer many trials, suffer with joy. Why? Because he can't use you until he hurts you deeply. Can I get a witness? Peter, turn me quickly to Matthew 26. I might not even hit the outline. We might just discuss this and go home. Peter, Matthew 26. Y'all jump way down to point 3 already. Don't worry, I'm going back to point 1. It just, this came up. Matthew 26. Y'all remember Peter? When he told Jesus, this famous verse right here, verse 33, in Matthew 26. Now let's go to verse 31. Then Jesus said to them, all of you will be made to stumble because of me. This night, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I have been raised, I will go before you to Galilee. Peter couldn't leave it there. Peter answered and said to him, even if all are made to stumble, because of you, I will never be made to stumble. You know what Peter was saying? Jesus, I'm your ride or die dude. Now, I don't know about John. I don't know about James. I don't know about Matthew. I don't know about Bartholomew. Judas, he ain't even in the picture no more. But if all of them fail you, you can go to your cross knowing that Peter was right there with you. And Jesus looked him in the eyes and said to him, as surely as I say to you, that this night, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. Y'all see that? And then Peter said, even if I have to die with you, I would not deny you. And so he said, all disciples. How many know that rooster crowed? Not only Peter denied him, he was cussing folks out. The Bible said that Peter cussed the woman. Aren't you going, no, I don't know. You sure look like them guys that were hanging around you. Lady, I told you. I don't know that dude. Next lady came in. You even sound like, mother, I don't know. Cock-a-doodle-doo. Peter cussing folks out. I ain't making this up. Read it for yourself. That's why I knew Peter was just straight hood on him. They get out of my face. I don't know him. Said again, there's going to be some consequences and repercussions up in here. And the Bible said Peter ran off weeping. And some of us, when we accepted Jesus Christ as our Savior, Lord, I would never deny you. I will always be there. Because we always looked at the blessing end of the salvation. We never took time to think about the struggles we have to go through or the things we have to deal with. Can I get a witness?
Amen.
Paul said like this, I was struck 39 times plus 1. I was shipwrecked. I had to come floating in on a plane. When I go to the cities, I look for the best prisons because I knew I was going to be there. I was beaten, I was abused, and all these things for the love of Christ. Sometimes I talk to dead people. John the Baptist say, you see this big old stitch around my neck? It's because of my relationship with Jesus Christ. They cut my head off. So I ask the question again, do you really want to be blessed? I'm not asking you to get cut. I'm not asking you to get beaten. I'm not asking you to be denied and request to be crucified upside down. All I'm asking you, are you willing to go through whatever God sent you through in order to get where God wants you to be?